It is the worst feeling to get a piece of lackluster content from a creator. Like, that's the kind of stuff that crushes my soul, is that this creator has so many amazing other videos on their channel, and then for whatever reason, they got stuck on the brief, or even worse, they thought that's what the brand wanted. They thought the brand wants this very boring, very unenthusiastic piece of content where you're just reading from a script about a product, and it just doesn't match with the channel.
Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you guys are having a great month so far, a great start to the year. This is Jessie Grossman, by the way, founder of WIM, Women in Influencer Marketing, the best online community for women who are obsessed with influencer marketing. So we are continuing our awesome guest host series for you. Today, we've got a wonderful episode for you to enjoy while I'm off on maternity leave. So you're going to be hearing less from me, more from our community members. We've got a lot of them who've all recorded episodes for you guys. If you're enjoying this series, please let us know. Or if you have other ideas for how we can improve this podcast and continue to make it great. I mean, we've been doing this since 2018. So I think it's always just important to keep up and reimagine and just, experiment and play around. So that's what we're doing. I've been enjoying these episodes. I've been sitting back and listening to all these guest hosts and being like, dang, that was good. Oh, that was good too. So I hope you're enjoying it as well. And I'd love to hear your ideas. So if you haven't subscribed to us yet on YouTube, definitely do. And then leave a comment on our videos and let us know what you enjoyed about this episode or what new you would like to see. And same goes for you guys if you're listening on any other platform. You can always send us a DM or just comment on our posts on Instagram, which is I am Wim over there as well. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoy this episode. This one is such a good one. So without further ado, let's jump into it. This show is sponsored by Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIM, the best online community for the creator economy. You will meet fellow influencer marketers, you'll meet brands, you'll meet talent agencies to talk shop, get hired, and even find a mentor. When you become a member, do not forget to check out all of our incredible resources. For example, we have dozens of masterclasses from the top voices at TikTok, at YouTube, award-winning agencies, and women who are paving the way for us all. So if you want the chance to network with a who's who in influencer marketing, check out what it takes to become a member. Make more money and have fun doing it. Visit iamwim.com/join. That's iamwim.com/join today. And I so look forward to seeing you more around the community.
Today's episode, I am really excited about. I have been working in the creator space for the last decade, and this is information and knowledge I've always wanted to share. And I couldn't think of a better person to share it with than my friend Lauren Gable, who's joining me on the show today. My name is Steph Martin. I'm an influencer and brand partnerships expert with over a decade of experience leading influencer programs for brands like Sephora, Walmart, CoverGirl, JCPenney, Hims and Hers, and many more. At one point, I worked at a wonderful agency called Style Hall, which is where I met Lauren Gable, who's doing the show with me today. Lauren Gable and I have seen some things over the last few years, worked on many amazing partnerships together, including a cross-country tour for a major beauty brand that had us moved to different cities across the country for a summer, taking beauty creators to different Sephoras for meet and greets. And at one point, even having to pay off an Uber driver to get a influencer's phone back after they left it before an event. But that is a story for another day. Lauren's super excited to be here with you today and really excited to just have a good conversation about how we can, spill kind of the secrets of what brands think in the influencer space, our advice to creators, and really just how we can make it a more transparent, I think, industry overall.
Awesome. No, I'm so excited to be here. I've been listening to the podcast for so long, so it's fun to finally be involved.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to share a little bit just about your own background before we jump into the good stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So I started off as a USC film student. I kind of like adding that bit just because I think that it kind of ties into coming from a storytelling background and really like, that's one of the elements I've always loved the most about this line of work is the storytelling element. And then I spent the first 7 years of my career at a big digital media company called Defy Media. And I was really focused on like producing premium production at that point. It was a lot of like producing short form content for brands, whether it's like a digital ad or, we would kind of come in and help brands create a bunch of series for like their YouTube channel. And we were kind of really primely positioned to start to work with influencers when those brands were like, hey, maybe we should be working with influencers. And so, and kind of back then the format looked a little different. Like we would sometimes shoot the content for the influencers and then provide it to them to like put on their channels. Obviously things have evolved more to the format we see today, which is the talent goes off and shoots their content on their own. And so I mean, at that stage, it was probably like I was doing 75% production work and then maybe like 25% influencer work. But then I moved to Style Hall where I met you, Steph, and I was on the campaigns team. So I kind of went fully into the influencer marketing side of things and was doing everything from, helping with like strategy and pitching to actually carrying out campaigns when we sold through, working with agents and managers to lock in talent, going through the briefing process, receiving content, doing notes back and forth with the client and, everything through like final reporting. So, got to see campaigns from like start to finish. And while I was there, I started working with Sephora and I kind of went full force into Sephora. And that, was my life kind of for about the final year I was at Style Hall. And then the company went under in 2019 as you, I think. And Sephora was like, start a company and we'll hire you to just keep doing what you've been doing, running their influencer ambassador program and their, various influencer initiatives throughout the year that, they would sometimes bring on like 100 micro creators to support an important launch and stuff like that. And then we also had our ambassadors that would create year-long programming across the year that we, would develop long-term relationships with. And we also would do there was an event component to this. We would take the talent, like you said, to different Sephora stores across the country to do meetups. We did a group trip to Munich, Germany. We took them to a factory where the product was made. And that was a really cool experience for them to get to see the kind of behind the scenes element of what goes into making products. We had a really full, wonderful program. In total, I worked with them for 6 years.
Amazing.
It was fabulous. Just the most wonderful to work with group of people, both on the talent side and the client themselves are just, wonderful. And I'm so grateful to them for giving me such a great opportunity to start my business and go freelance. And that's kind of where I have been today. And I worked with other brands, like I did like a year-long ambassador program for Aperol and Long Branch Bourbon. I got to help put together a influencer marketing program for a new emergency contraception brand called Julie. That was like really fun and, something different for me. And I've done a number of like kind of freelance gigs at big agencies. So I've gotten to work with, big brands like Geico and Aveeno and Acura, Mini Cooper, as well as like done some like smaller things like brand direct. Like I work with a kind of small freeze dried fruit brand called Crispy Green. So yeah, it's definitely been kind of like all over the map, big and small brands, both brand direct through agencies. And I just feel really grateful that I've gotten to experience, being on so many different sides and perspectives of like, influencer marketing and the creator economy.
Absolutely. We've seen it all, right? We've worked with thousands. I would say between the two of us, definitely thousands of creators in our career.
Yep.
Probably, 50 to 100 brands combined between both of us. Maybe not 100, that's probably exaggerating, but certainly plenty of brands in this day.
Probably.
I mean, small brands, big brands. Like we did a lot of campaigns. I worked in-house at brands for the last, since I left Style Hall. So the last 7 or 8 years, it feels like. And you've obviously worked both directly with brands and with brands through agency side. And then, of course, we both work direct with talent and agents and managers. So have a lot of good perspective. And I think today's conversation is really about how do we bring transparency to the industry? What are the things as folks on the brand side that we wish we could tell creators? Because I think every person who's ever been on the brand side has had a moment where they open an email and they're like, I wish I could call this creator and tell them this. Or, you know, they have a situation, they're like, I wish I could just tell them this one thing. So that's really what today is about, is sharing that knowledge and giving us a forum to do it. I think for folks listening, if you're wondering, well, why don't you just call the creator up, or why don't you just call the manager up? There's a lot of reasons. Like sometimes we can't. Sometimes we are only connected to the manager and we wish we could tell the creator something. Sometimes it's just not our job to. Sometimes it's not professional or not conducive in the current situation. Sometimes we do. There are often times where we do share this direct feedback, but it's not always in a public forum like this where everybody gets to listen, right? It might be a one-off conversation with a creator. So excited to get into it. Lauren, let's start with a big topic. And I'm sure you get asked about this. I get asked this question all the time when I meet with creators for lunch or coffee. What do brands think of managers?
I mean, they can be your biggest ally, or, you know, there's a few that can make your life really challenging. And, you know, I feel like there's only a few probably people that I've kind of come across that have, you know, I've turned around and been like, okay, I can never work with that person again.
Yeah.
You know, generally speaking, I think that managers can be really helpful. I think they can, you know, sometimes you're working with creators who haven't been in professional environments before, and they can kind of come in and add that level of professionalism, like, you know, helping the talent to understand deadlines and, you know, make sense of the brief and the deliverables, and kind of like do a little bit of the hand holding. I actually never mind hand holding if a creator doesn't have a manager. Like I, you know, want to kind of help them and take them under my wing. But yeah, I would say like, you know, managers managers should be trying to get you more money. It's always fine to like ask and try, but also like, you know, I think that sometimes, and we've talked about this a little bit, sometimes you can run into situations where managers almost limit their clients in some ways by, you know, not being a little bit more flexible or willing to, or just, you know, kind of looking for places to figure out how to make a deal possible. You know, like sometimes you have to get a little creative with what you're trying to do to make it work for everybody. But you end up working with people who, you know, you can tell are collaborative and want to figure it out. And then you sometimes work with people who just shut the door. And sometimes that's a real bummer for the talent. And, you know, you wish you could tell them that their agent just got them to lose out on a pretty cool deal and opportunity. So yeah, I would say, you know, managers can be wonderful, and just make sure you're working with the right one who's really going to be collaborative and, you know, show up for you in the best light, and which also puts you in the best light.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. Sometimes managers make our lives easier as folks on the brand side, right? There are managers who I love working with, and I'm excited when I get to call a talent that's managed by this certain manager. I'm like, yes, this is going to be a great campaign, because these managers, right, know how to keep our campaigns on track. They can make sure our programs are organized. They can help ensure the deal is just like professional and well done, meets the client or the brand's expectations, make sure the talent is happy and has an, you know, understanding of everything before we go to film. So there are times where, and certain managers that I love working with and am excited to work with. And I would encourage, right, people to explore their options. If you're somebody who's just starting out, maybe you don't quite need a manager yet, because that manager does take a percentage, right, of your fee, but they can also help you get more business. So it's something to think about. They can also help you grow your business and help you become more successful. That's a question I get a lot from influencers. It's like, do I need a manager? And my answer is always, it depends, right? And if you do choose to work with management, my advice as somebody on the brand side is just make sure you really know who you're working with. Like, know how this person interacts to brands, not just with you, like know how they actually respond to brand inquiries or, you know, opportunities for you. Just know who they are, because as somebody on the brand side, if your manager is the only one emailing me, that manager is representing you. I don't know you as a creator and how you email brands. I only know your manager. And I hate to say this because, again, there's managers that I love working with, but there are some managers who are also not great, who are bad actors out there, right? And if I'm the brand and I'm trying to approach you for a campaign and your manager is rude, unresponsive, disorganized, or Lauren, as you said, just like generally unreasonable or unwilling to work together.
Yeah.
Like if you're a creator listening to this, that could cost you not only a deal, but it could get you blacklisted. Like there are some folks who I won't work with again just because of bad behavior or not professional behavior. And I think a really good example of that is, this happened to me the other day, right? I had a budget. I'm just making these numbers up for the purpose of this conversation. But let's say I knew that I had a budget of $10,000, right? And I knew that I had to fit, a couple creators in, but I think based off my total budget, let's say the total budget was $20,000. I thought I could roughly pay this creator about $10,000, but I wasn't sure because I hadn't locked in a second creator. I needed to get like 2 for 20 roughly. So I go out, I make this creator an offer. Again, I'm just making these numbers up. Let's say I offered this creator $9,000 to start, knowing that, okay, maybe we're going to have a little bit of wiggle room. I think I roughly need to land around 10 in order to make this work because I still have to book a second creator. And this manager comes back and says, hey, her rate is $10,500, right? This person is $10,500. Okay, great. We're not that far off, right? I think I offered her 9. The manager comes back with $10,500. I know roughly I'm trying to land around 10. We should be able to make a deal here, right? We're not that far off. So ask the manager, hey, can we meet in the middle? Maybe we can meet at, 9,500 or 10,000 even, right on target. And this manager says, no, I do not negotiate. We're not negotiating. That is the rate, no flexibility. That's highly unusual and not a great way to build a relationship with a brand. And in this case, right, I had to walk away. And unfortunately, that manager lost their talent and deal. And that talent lost out on making $10,000 and working with a brand that they might have been excited about. I don't even know if the manager presented the offer to the talent because they just said, this is the firm price. Like, I don't know, let the talent decide if that's something that they're interested in. Obviously, manager knows how to run their business. That's, their choice. But I wish that they would have even brought that to talent before shutting it down. At the end of the day, we were only $500 apart on
Crazy.
a $10,000 deal. And this creator didn't get a chance to even consider working with this brand because the manager didn't want to be flexible. And to me, as somebody on the brand side, I'm thinking it's like, working with a manager or a creator is like dating. Everyone should be, or like interviewing for a job, right? Everybody should be on their best behavior in the beginning. And I always think about this, right? Your first date should be great, or your interview with your company should be great. And typically, it doesn't necessarily get better. If you have like a really bad interview and you get a weird vibe from a job and you decide to work there, your gut is probably right. If you go on a couple of bad first dates with somebody, or bad first date, bad second date, bad third date, why are you going to keep dating them? Like, it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And that's my philosophy in working with creators and in management, right? If you seem inflexible, difficult, rude, I know this is going to be a tough time for me. Even if we do work out a deal, it's going to be tough. And it's going to be like pulling teeth the entire time. So I would say, like, sometimes if from the very first conversation, the manager's not willing to be flexible, that impacts the talent. And Lauren, I know you're nodding and you have so much to say, but
I'm trying to so not to cut you off.
Yes, go, take it away.
Oh, no. I mean, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. I think you really have to trust your gut. When you're approaching a campaign and a potential deal, if you're getting something is just feeling off, or, you can tell this person is not going to be, collaborative and good to work with. Like, that's always like, a little bit of a red flag from the start with, and this applies to talent too, not just managers, but sorry.
It's tough. It's tough, right? You're kind of sussing out the situation from the beginning of, is this going to be a good person to work with? And I think that's always my advice to creators is when I say know how your manager or agent or representation is going to represent you. That's why, because sometimes our experience is vastly different. Like in that situation I just shared, we don't even know if that opportunity was ever shared with talent. And we were so close to making a deal. And I can't imagine that any creator wouldn't want to evaluate an opportunity that was right in the ballpark of their rate, right? And it's not like this, we offered $1,000, this person's rate was $10,500. We were so close to closing something. So
close. I would also
tough.
I would recommend that, if you are working with a manager, maybe be transparent that you want to see your head to hear any and all offers like that come through, and you get to be the judge of where you kind of want to draw the line. Because I think it is a bummer when you feel like, you reach out and a manager kind of quickly shoots something down, and, maybe you aren't that far off. And, at the end of the day, like, you also like don't, this could be a brand that, could be a particular interest to this influencer. Maybe they just moved and it's a furniture company. And even though the offer is a little bit low, maybe they would love like, a couple $1,000s worth of free product, So there's always going to be like, situations like that, are worth considering. But I think that just being transparent with your manager that like, you want to hear all the offers and, kind of figuring out what your what your working relationship is like with them in a way that like you don't end up accidentally missing out on something.
Yeah, 100%. And Lauren, you shared with me a story about a situation where you were actually trying to pay a creator and you couldn't process payment.
9 months of chasing a manager, begging a manager to send me an invoice. And I just could not get a response out of this person. And it was even a talent that like the client like really wanted to continue a relationship and, continue working with. But I just had to be like, I am so sorry. Like the manager is so unresponsive. Like, I'm afraid that we're not going to be able to get, the deliverables done. And, it's such a bummer. And we actually did end up having to kind of reach out to the talent directly because the manager was so unresponsive. And I know that this person wasn't happy about that, but we were kind of like, it was like a last resort sort of situation.
Yep. Absolutely. I think, there are fantastic and wonderful managers out there who are great, but I would say if you're a creator and you're listening to this, ask those questions, have those conversations. The other one that comes to mind is about edits, right? Are you okay with edits? I would say, please encourage your management to be flexible with edits where reasonable, right? I think when reasonable is the key because, of course, if you're asking for excessive edits or edits that weren't listed in the brief or other things, that's one thing. But I think sometimes we're asking for a required edit, especially if it's a compliance or regulatory issue, or maybe they mispronounce the name of something when they got something really key. Those things, we try to be reasonable. But sometimes if your manager, doesn't want to offer the options for edits, it can leave a bad taste in the mouth of the brand because we're like, hey, this is supposed to be a partnership. We're asking for something we think is reasonable. The person isn't making the edits. And again, we don't even know. I would say great managers, we never doubt, but some of the not so great ones, we don't even know if these edits have been asked of the talent or not.
Yeah, I would say that. And I understand why managers, might try to like add into the agreement, like, try to eliminate edits. And I know they're just trying to protect their clients from unreasonable edits. And that's, I get that. Like if the client asks for a pink pony and, you give them a pink pony, but then they turn around and in the notes they say, you know what, give me a blue pony. Like, yes, that is the sort of thing you push back on. But then there's the notes that are like, they said the product name wrong. Like, and like also like they're, different clients operate differently. There are, sometimes we work with brands and clients that, are a little bit more challenging perhaps. And we know the things that, really might get them, they might get very, very hung up on like certain things. Like, maybe like you say the product name wrong. And sometimes it is better for you if, we say, hey, you know what, you said the product name wrong. It would probably be best if you update this before we send to the client, because I just know they're going to get so hung up on that they're going to be nitpicky and like
going to shoot down the whole thing.
And so it's actually better for you and it's going to present you in a better light. And, at the end of the day, we just like, we're rooting for you. We're on your team. Like, when we do come with, an edit request like this, there's usually like, a reason behind it. But yeah, I would say like you said, just make sure your manager knows that you're open to edits, reasonable edits.
Yep, absolutely. Well, on that note, I want to shift gears to talking about something that I think is so important for creators and agents to understand. And it's in the same vein as this discussion. It is reputation. For me, your reputation is everything, right? If you are somebody who I know that I can depend on, you are responsible, you are transparent, you clearly understand that this is a partnership and also, a business deal, right? I will work with you again and again, especially if you're friendly, you're polite, again, you're on time, you do the job that we're asking you to do. Great. I will call you up for every campaign. And the other thing that I think is important for creators to remember is that even if I work at a brand that you don't love today, right? I might work at a brand that you have no interest in partnering with today, especially if I'm on the agency side, but brand side too. People change jobs all the time. A year from now, I could work at your favorite brand ever. And if you sent me a mean email and you cussed me out because I tried to just send you a campaign opportunity, or, you did something like you screenshotted my email and you posted it on your stories and said, I can't believe this type of brand is asking me to work with them, I will remember that. And I think we all will remember that.
Yes.
And it's going to impact your future opportunities. So it goes both ways, right? Like if you're somebody who's known for doing a great job, is known for being on time, is known for being polite and friendly and just a joy to work with, I will call you up over and over and over again with endless opportunities. Even better, I might recommend you to other brands. I might, just know somebody else on the brand side and say, hey, I heard you're looking for talent. This person is fantastic. Like I've always had a good experience working with them. Definitely work with them and try to re-engage them. And if you're somebody who wasn't behaving appropriately or wasn't behaving well, we'll remember that too. And just, be on your best behavior, always be friendly, be professional. Even if something isn't for you, like you don't want to work on something, just respond and say, hey, this isn't a right fit for me right now. I really appreciate you thinking of me. It will go so far, but reputation is everything. And we always remember the creators that have high quality content, and we always remember the ones on the other side too.
Yes. 100%. I cannot tell you, it is so much better for us to be able to work with, people that we know how they work. We know that they're going to turn in their content on time. We know it's going to be high quality. We know that they're going to produce the concept that they told us they were going to produce, which is really important too. And, there comes a day in anyone's, life where, working in influencer marketing, we have a project that has a really fast turnaround, and we need to find somebody who, we can just rely on 1,000%. And we're not going to worry that, they might not get it, the deliverables in on time. We just need to make sure that we're going to hand that project and opportunity over to someone who is going to knock it out of the park. And you want to be the creator that we call in those moments. Yeah. You want to be the creator that, is the most reliable and solid, who is going to be, the person that we call up in those kind of moments. And also those are the moments that sometimes have a little bit of extra money because of the fast turnaround. And, so it really benefits everybody. At the end of the day, this is a relationship business, right? And you want to make sure that, people, when they see your name pop up on a talent list, they're excited because they know that you're really good to work with, and they know you're going to produce top quality work.
Yep, absolutely. I would say another part of that, right, is just being transparent. My next piece of advice for creators is just really around, don't be afraid to ask questions. Let's have those conversations, ask questions. The person you're emailing on the other side of your emails is a real person, right? It's me, it's Lauren, it's somebody else. There is somebody at some point, even if you're doing it through a system or a platform, somebody along the way has to read your messages, because how else are you going to get this campaign done? So don't be afraid to ask questions. I wish I could tell creators this, because sometimes they've already filmed something and I find out after they've got a question. I'm like, why didn't you just ask before? And I would also say make sure you know what you're signing up for. Don't be afraid to ask a question of, how does the product work? What's expected of me? What type of video are you expecting for me to produce? How long?
How to pronounce the product's name.
Yes.
Huge one.
Yes, absolutely. Or
brand name.
A brand name or a color name. Lauren, I remember one time we did, I don't know if you remember this, but it was a long time ago. We were doing a campaign for a lipstick, I believe, or some sort of a lip product. And the color was, I think, Framboise. It was a French name. And people were saying Framboise, Frambraise, Frambra.
Oh my God.
We were like, we wish that we could just tell you how to pronounce it. And I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, this memory, but it happens more common than you think. It happens all the time. And I would say, if you're a creator, ask those questions. How do I pronounce this? What are you looking for? Also, ask what the goals are. If they're not stated somewhere, real professionals try to always share the goals when we can, but every brand operates differently. Every brief looks different. Ask what the brand is trying to achieve, please, and then do your best to hit that. If the brand is trying to drive sales, they're like, hey, we just launched this new product. We're looking for influencers to help us drive awareness and sales. Try to create content that's going to help them actually sell this product. That's how they're measuring you. Ask them what success looks like. Hey, how are you measuring success? Are they measuring it on product sales? Great. You know that if you want them to re-engage with you, you need to drive sales on this product. Ask what they're looking for. If they're looking for engagement, let's say they're like, oh, the goal is awareness. Ask them what that means. Are you looking for video views? Are you looking for high engagement content? Like, just ask those questions and have the conversation so that you can be well prepared to hit those goals. And I would say 99% of the time, people will be responsive and tell you whatever information they can. Sometimes they can't tell you everything, but ask questions that are important to you before you go to film, because I would way rather hop on a phone call, have a discussion, answer questions via email, than get a video back that doesn't match the brief, has challenges with it, or isn't set up to actually meet the brand's goals.
Yeah, and I think I said this before, but just to reiterate, I never have a problem hand-holding. Yep. Like you said, ask those questions. I always make sure people have my cell phone number in case something comes up over the weekend when they're trying to film. You can text me anytime. And yeah, we would just rather get out in front of those things.
It also shows they care about the partnership, right? If a creator is taking the time to ask me, what are the goals of the campaign? What are you looking to get out of it? I read that email and I think, wow, this person really cares about the success of the partnership. They want to make sure that the brand is happy, they're happy, that everyone knows what's expected of them. I think that's great. For me, that's like green flag.
Yeah. And it can also help you kind of assess if this, campaign is really right for you too. Because, if the brand says, we want to drive X number of clicks, and that maybe that's not where your strong suit, you can know now. So, you can make sure that you don't enter into campaigns that you feel like you maybe can't be successful in.
Yep. Lauren, this next piece of advice I think is from you and some of our discussions that we've had as well. But don't be afraid to think outside of the box. I would say this goes hand in hand with asking questions. Ask questions so you can tailor your content appropriately, but don't get a brief and think, hey, this is the only way for me to do it, or I have to make this a really boring review. Come with good ideas. You were selected because the brand loves something about your content. You can even ask that question, right? Hey, why was I selected for this campaign? Or, what type of content, is there any content that I've made previously that you think could inspire this video? Ask those questions, but don't be afraid to think outside of the box. Just because you received a brief doesn't mean the content has to be boring or monotone. And in fact, yes, some brands want you to follow an exact format they laid out in the brief. Some brands would love for you to give it your own spin, would love for you to say, I had this really amazing idea of how I can incorporate your talking points. So tell us how you feel about creators who think outside of the box.
I mean, I personally love it. And I know that sometimes you work with brands that, like you said, they want to play it safe. They really want to stick to, within a certain sandbox. But then you have brands who do want to be innovative and try things. And you're never going to know unless you ask. So, to the earlier point, always ask. But I think that brands love it when you come to them with a, big idea. And, sometimes they might not be able to get all the stakeholders involved on board with it. But I think that people always appreciate, the initiative and showing passion for their brand and the campaign and the video that you're about to produce. Sometimes I've had videos get turned in that, might feel kind of lackluster compared to their organic content. And I can't tell you how kind of disappointing that can be.
Yeah.
For a brand to kind of see that, and they're looking at the video they just paid a lot of money for. And then, the other content that's all on your channel, and they're just feeling like the two aren't very equivalent, and that can be tough. So when it does feel like you are going above and beyond and putting a lot of thought and effort into this partnership, that really goes a long way. And like we said, we might not always be able to do the big idea, but I think that it never hurts to share it. And, you can always come with a, backup idea that might be a little bit, more in line with the brief. But yeah, I think sharing those ideas is a really wonderful thing. And
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you can say like, you can send ideas too. You can say, hey, here's how I interpreted the brief. Here's concept one. Here's concept two. That's totally out of the box. I know you asked for concept one. I'm sending you this just as a FYI. That's also great. It shows, hey, I followed the brief. I read it, but I also have another idea. So again, never hurts to ask, throw it out there. Send big ideas. Maybe we can activate that idea today, but we might have a campaign in 2 months from now and say, hey, I remember that creator pitched me this awesome idea that actually fits perfectly with what we're trying to do for holiday, right? And then we can come back and think about it. Or even better, build a program around your idea. Never hurts to have the conversation. And I would also say, like, when it comes to thinking outside of the box for content, Lauren, I could not agree with you more. It is the worst feeling to get a piece of lackluster content from a creator. Like, that's the kind of stuff that crushes my soul is that this creator has so many amazing other videos on their channel. And then for whatever reason, they got stuck on the brief, or even worse, they thought that's what the brand wanted. They thought the brand wants this very boring, very unenthusiastic piece of content where you're just reading from a script about a product and it just doesn't match with the channel. And like, it is so crushing as somebody on the brand because you're like, I want this amazing content. We picked this creator because they made amazing content and they send us this video. And on paper, yes, it hit the talking points, but in execution, it doesn't have the passion. It's flat. Yeah, it's flat. And that's the worst feeling too. So I would say, like, make sure if you are following the brief, try to make an engaging video, try to make it as similar as you can to other types of content on your channel, because most brands, when they're looking for people to partner, are looking at your content and they're saying, hey, I like the type of videos this person makes. That's why I'm picking them. So don't serve this a totally separate video that doesn't look anything like everything else that you've made, right? Because we love the content you're already making. That's why we want to work with you.
Yeah, and I'd also just kind of adding on to that, like, I think that, like, sometimes, as a creator, you might receive a brief with a list of talking points, and it can be easy to kind of fall into the trap of just, kind of reading the talking points off verbatim. But, I'd super, super encourage you not to do that. Like, as much as possible, like, always put the talking points in your own words, like, or better yet, like, just talk organically, like, from the heart about what you love about the product. And I feel like that can never really go wrong. I'd also say that, like, another thing you can do is, like, think about how you can communicate the messaging points in the brief visually, without even using words. How can you bring, like, that messaging to life? Because that can be something, a fun way to explore and approach messaging points that, might feel a little bit less ads-like.
Yep. Definitely. I want to move on to another piece of advice that I would love to share with creators. And this is something that I think about all of the time. And at the end of the day, like, I would love for creators to remember that this partnership is a partnership, but it is also a business deal. Like, quite literally, this is my job. I show up to work every day to do this. Lauren shows up every day to work to do this. This is our job, and we are professionals, and we would love and we appreciate when creators are professionals in return. So what do I mean by that? Keep on top of things, be organized, try your best to hit the deadlines. Obviously things happen, right? If you are in a place that was hit by a crazy natural disaster or a storm, if you had a family emergency, if your kid is sick, things happen, but really try your best to adhere to the deadlines. And if something does happen, communicate about that too, right? Give us a heads up in advance. Hey, I'm going through this thing. I need a few days on video. So sorry. Guess what? If you were on time with every other step of the process, like if you turned in your script on time, if you, sent me your first draft on time and now you're supposed to owe me edits and something happened, if you were on time with everything else, I'm not even going to think twice about it. Or I might say, okay, thanks for letting me know. Let's revisit your timeline. So continue to just operate in a really professional sense. I think that's extremely important and will take you farther than you realize. I would also say, like I said, this is our job, right? Remember that the person on the other side of the email or the phone call is just trying to do their job. This person is showing up to work to do their job. Their job is to work through these partnerships. Their job is to meet their brand goals, their marketing goals. So again, be respectful and know that if there is a question, it's not necessarily a personal attack. It's not because we don't want to do something. Sometimes it is because there's somebody else who says we have to, or there's something else that you don't know about, right? So just know, like, there's a person on the other side doing their very best to do their job. And I think the last thing is going back, this is a business deal, right? Results matter. A brand isn't just working with you because they think you're great. Yes, they do think you're great. That's amazing. But they also are expecting a result, right? They're expecting that you're going to help drive awareness for their new product. They're expecting that you're going to drive sales. They are expecting that you're going to make a great video. They are expecting something out of it. It is ultimately, a business deal and an investment for them. That's the other thing. Working with a creator is an investment for them. They are spending money. Brands are spending money on creators as an investment to help them meet whatever their business goals are. So keep that in mind too, that, they're looking to really see those results. And it goes back to earlier in the conversation. So it's important for you to know, what are they looking at as a result? Do they care about views? Do they care about clicks? Do they care about engagement? Do they care about something else? But yeah, it is a business deal. And, we are operating as professionals. And the more that you can help us in our jobs, do what we need to do, the better it is.
Yeah. And listen, you can't always control everything that's going to happen, right? Yes. Sometimes the algorithm could just not be working in your favor, or, like you said, there could be a natural disaster and you lost power and you couldn't work on your video. There's always going to be things like that, can happen in a campaign, but you just always want to make sure that you are, on top of and the things that you can control, your content quality, like how you communicate when, you hit delays. Having good communication is just so important. If something doesn't perform, is there a way, can you share that reel to your story? Could you maybe do some added value stories? I think that when we see talent that, maybe a piece of content didn't pop for whatever reason, but we see that they're trying to, show the brand some extra love, that goes such a long way, and a story frame, doesn't have to be a ton of effort. It can be very simple, but that is something that, brands 1,000% notice and recognize. And I feel like, that plays into, as they're determining who they're going to partner with the next time or who they want to have long-term partnerships with, this really does help you stand out.
And I love to see that. You know what else I love to see? Please don't do this with embargoed products. Please don't do this with unreleased products. But I do always love that even before a campaign goes live, when a creator is genuinely passionate about the brand and does a story, right? Let's say, I'm just making this up, but let's say that we sent them a pan for their kitchen and they're supposed to make a video that's going to go live. Maybe they've already filmed the video. The video is not going live for another 2 weeks, but they start posting stories of them, cooking with their new pan in their kitchen before the video goes up because they love it. To me, I'm like, great. This person genuinely loves the product. We made the right call with this partnership. They're working on their video. It just shows that extra mile of enthusiasm. So yes, to make goods, especially if something isn't performing or going the way you wanted to, or, you had some external factor that impacts a campaign. But if you love the product, also show that, go above and beyond, send an extra photo in, post an extra story about how you're just at home, genuinely loving the product. You don't have to make it sponsored with all the talking points. Just post that extra story and tag the brand because it shows you're excited. And I think that really helps us understand who cares about this product and who would want to go the extra mile and maybe who's just here to follow the brief and check out and be done.
I would also say we're busy. We don't necessarily catch every story. Yep. So if you post something and, you didn't see the brand handle it can never hurt to screenshot that and just, shoot it to us in an email or just, let us know I received the products. I love them so much. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes.
Did a story because we don't catch everything. And, you want to get credit for that. So, that can never hurt to just, make sure you have a record of that story. And if it makes sense to shoot it over to us, we always appreciate that.
Yes. This next topic is something that I think that you and I both wish we could scream from the rooftops to every creator, no matter the situation. And this is that we are on your team. We are in this industry and in this business because we love creators. This is fun for us. We love working with creators to bring a piece of content to life. I love getting to meet new creators and getting to email all of them. I do this because I love it and I chose it as a career for that reason. But we're on your team. And sometimes, we're fighting battles for you that you don't even know about behind the scenes, right? We're trying to always get more budget for you. We're trying to help give you the flexibility and the freedom. You emailed us that big idea, right? We're trying to see how can we get the budget to bring that to life in a few months. Like, we really are on the side of creators. And so just know that in mind, that if we're asking you to make an edit, it's not because we personally don't like your video for whatever reason. It's because we want you to be successful in this campaign. That is our job, to ensure your success. We want the brand to renew with you. We want to keep working with you. We're not asking you for an edit because me personally, I didn't like something about that video. It's usually because of a, compliance issue, a regulatory issue, a brand issue. We're like, oh, they can't say that because, there's a problem with legal, or they can't say that because it's not the right, it's not an accurate description of the product, or it's not accurately speaking to the product name. So just know we're on your team. And also, we're here to work with you. We're here to solution with you, right? If you have an issue, if you have a question, if you're like, I can't reshoot that one bit because I'm no longer at that location, let's talk about it. Maybe you can do an edit at the beginning of the video. Maybe you can do a voiceover and we can put in some B-roll footage. Like, we're on your team. And Lauren, I think the other thing is, like, when we send a reshoot or an edit request, right? Personally, if I'm asking somebody to reshoot a video, it's because I have exhausted every other option before I go ask a reshoot. Like, we don't take reshoots lightly. I would never go ask somebody to reshoot a video.
Absolutely not.
Unless I have to.
Yeah. Like, we are always, trying to figure out how we can, get creative with our editing to avoid reshoots. Like, so if ever a time does come where we do have to ask somebody to reshoot, it usually is with like very good reason. Like, maybe legal, like there was a big issue. Like, I work on a lot of alcohol campaigns, and those come with a lot of restrictions. And some of them are things you would not necessarily just like obviously know. Some of them, maybe people should be able to figure out that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have a glass of alcohol with like, the fireplace going in the background because, flammable. But then there's other things that like people don't realize are, maybe going to be legal issues. And there have been times when we've had to have people refilm because, honestly, it was kind of out of our hands. Like, this was like, it's a legal consideration. And, there's restrictions that, brands just might not be comfortable with taking a chance on. And so, do know that we don't take those, those requests lightly at all. Like, we definitely always try to figure out alternative solutions that don't involve refilming. And, I can't tell you how many times I, will fight for the creator too, like on the back end with the client, or, just telling them like, no, like the creator, they followed the brief, they followed their approved synopsis, asking them to refilm doesn't feel fair. And, how can we, look at this like a little bit more creatively to get, accomplish our goal. Can we do an edit here and then maybe like, pull that up and, maybe we just cut to an insert here. So I'm always kind of looking for those creative solves. And I can't tell you like how many times I'll watch a video like 25 times, in order to, help you avoid a reshoot request. So, sometimes you do have to ask, for a reshoot, but it's only after exhausting all other possibilities.
Yes. I would say if you're creating and you're listening to this and someone has asked you for a reshoot, know that they have probably looked at that video 500 times. They have probably explored every possible option first of how to fix it or how to make an edit before reshooting. And that is truly a last resort for whatever reason. But just know that we fight for you, right? We're always, I would say, like, always championing creators, championing your work, your content, trying to prove out the value that we should continue to invest in influencer marketing because we know it works and we love seeing it work and we love seeing it drive business results for us. So just know that we're on your side and we do this because we love creators, we love content, we love working with you, and we do it with always the best intentions at heart.
Quick question for you guys. How much do you love redlining agreements? Yeah, me too. Let me tell you about our latest sponsor called Caveat. So Caveat with K is an AI-powered contracting platform that simplifies and automates your contracts. It'll hugely improve the way that you review partnership agreements. So if you're a media company or an entertainment company or a management firm, it's a must-have tool. Look, sometimes you do need to hire a lawyer, an expensive lawyer nonetheless, to work on an agreement because it's over a certain threshold, and a good lawyer can be invaluable. But what about all those other partnerships, those other contracts that are for $5,000 or even like $1,000? That's where Caveat comes in to support you and your team through AI to process your contracts to gain a competitive edge through data-driven insights and automatic AI-driven deadlines. It's game-changing tech, and it's founded by 3 brilliant women. So you know why I'm out here supporting it. Get time back in your day because Caveat will help you with the part of your business that may be your least favorite. So head to our website. It's iamwim.com/caveat for a completely free trial. That's iamwim.com/KAVEAT. I hope you guys love it as much as I do.
I want to go down to another kind of sticky topic, Lauren, and this is about rates. So what do you wish creators knew about rates, negotiations, pricing? What advice would you tell them?
So, at the end of the day, you can set your rate at whatever you want, but then you also have to take a step back and look at, how many brands are you able to work with if you set it here? If you set it here, maybe, a lot more doors are opened. And, if you are a doctor who has, you have a day job as a physician, but you just have, you're doing your YouTube or your Instagram handle is just kind of like a side project, you might not care if you only do 1 or 2 brand deals a year. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's honestly all you can really handle. But if you're a content creator who, you're doing this as your full-time job, working more often might be more important to you than setting your rate super high. You might have a wider range. And I also would encourage you to just, if you do want to be a creator who works a lot, just being flexible on the rate. As a freelancer, I work with a lot of different brands. Some of them are big brands with bigger budgets. And then I work with some that are, smaller brands that are just kind of getting started in the influencer marketing space. And they aren't working with huge budgets. They're working with small budgets. But, one of the interesting things about me is I can bring you a tiny little project for a smaller brand. And, maybe you are, flexible with me on your rate. And I'm never going to hold that as precedent, if you do, show some flexibility on your rate on, one project. And if you're good to work with and, you were working with me on the price on the smaller campaign, when I have a bigger budget, I'll 1,000% throw you a bone, so, just keeping in mind, as if you want to work a lot, being flexible on your rates is definitely going to be in your interest in the long run. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, if you're okay only working with on 1 or 2 brand deals and setting your rate kind of high, and that's also an option. Anything is on the table, but you also have to remember that we can have 2 creators and we might be willing to pay $5,000 for one of them and just not on the other, because we have to kind of look at our budget, as a whole. And oftentimes, you're not the only person we're negotiating with. We have a bunch of negotiations all happening at once, and we have to make sure that we're coming in at a certain number. And, I also, me personally, do try to keep, what I'm paying people, in somewhat of the same ballpark range. If they're, kind of similar types of creators and one is asking for $10,000, one is asking for $1,000, and everybody else in the campaign is making about $1,000, I probably am not going to be willing to do $10,000 for the one talent, because I know that there's going to be other creators that I might be able to, get in a similar price point to the rest of the creators that I'm working with. And that just feels a little bit more fair to me in a way. But yeah, so much goes into so much goes into rates. And, we also have insight into, is the client willing to pay that amount for this person? Like, there might be another creator that they kind of liked just as much, and that could easily kind of be swapped in if somebody isn't really willing to negotiate or be flexible on the rate. There's somebody else that we can go out to. But if you're a super niche creator, you probably have a little more legs to stand on if you want to, really kind of push hard on the rate side of things. So yeah, that's always something to kind of like also look at is, what particular niche are you coming from? Are there a lot of other creators that could probably be subbed in? A lot of other people that kind of are working and creating content in this way and in this like vertical, or are you super specific and they might not be able to find another creator to replace you if you say no? So that's something also to think about as you're trying to figure out how hard you want to, negotiate.
Yeah. I would say too, like for creators listening, it is totally okay to negotiate. Most of the time it's expected to negotiate. We're open to it, right? Don't ever be afraid to negotiate. And again, ask the question, ask, hey, do you have any wiggle room on the budget? Could you go up to X number? I'd feel more comfortable at this number. Just come prepared with the why. Come prepared with why you're asking for money. Or more money, right? Is it because this is lower than your typical rate? Is it because you know that you can drive results? Come with like kind of the background to help us make that case, because we might also have to go make that case to somebody else to get more budget for this campaign, or we might have to weigh out why we're going to pay you more versus paying another creator more. So don't be afraid to negotiate as long as you're respectful. I would say the respectful thing is very key and professional, but also come with the numbers to back it up, right? Say, hey, in my last brand deal I did, I sold X amount of product. I drove this many clicks. I went above and beyond and did this, this, and this. Or, hey, would you be willing to increase the rate and I'll do 3 extra stories for you? Or, add something in it to make it worth it. If you need to get the number a little bit higher, I would say be open to negotiating. We don't mind if you negotiate. We might not always be able to accommodate it. Most folks on the brand side will try to work something out with you. Don't be afraid to do it. I would say as long as you're not making up a random number, you should be okay. That's a challenge, right? As if somebody says, the offer was 1,000, I want 10,000. Okay, tell us why. You can't tell us why because you just made up that number. That's going to be harder for us to help justify getting that budget for you. But if you come with all of these reasons and you have this amazing engagement rate and you're really excited about this project and you've already been using it for 5 years and you can go back and film, you have old content from 5 years ago that shows you using it. You can make this fantastic video and you can do extra stories. Okay, we can talk about how we can make this partnership, maybe meet somewhere in the middle. So don't be afraid to negotiate. On the same side, like you can charge whatever you want. If you want to charge $10,000, if you want to charge $1 million, that's okay. But to Lauren's point, just know not every brand is going to be able to say yes to that. So if you're okay with doing a few brand deals for people who are going to pay that rate, go for it. It's your right to charge whatever you want. Just know that the brand might not always be able to accommodate that. So you might have less deals that kind of come to fruition for you. And I would say the other thing too that I wish I had a better answer for is there's no standard rate formula amongst every single brand. I think there's a lot of folks who try to create or triangulate a formula. The thing is, every brand evaluates and prices influencers differently. And like, I know that stinks. I know that is not great news for a creator because I can only speak for brands that I've worked on, but every single brand prices things differently. So some brands are going to have bigger budgets, to Lauren's point, especially if they might be a larger brand. Some brands might have smaller budgets. Some brands use influencers for different things, right? Maybe they're using influencers to drive for this one product to drive sales and they have a bigger budget for that versus for awareness or for another project, they might have a smaller budget. Maybe their budget at the end of the year is bigger than their budget in June. Things just fluctuate and there's no standard rate formula. So just because one brand could pay you something one time doesn't necessarily mean that all brands can do that. Or just because you had a lower rate one time doesn't mean you won't have flexibility to go higher, even with the same brand. So I think that's important to remember too, is that it's not standardized.
And I would also just say, like, if somebody comes to you with a brand deal and you're interested and you are trying to figure out how you can make a deal work, even if you can't necessarily hit the number that you're trying to, get to, I would also just encourage you to look at the other levers and things you can play around with in the deal. Like, can you maybe reduce some of the usage or
yes.
exclusivity? Could they send you a ton of extra product that could make it, a little bit more appealing. They give you a behind the scenes tour of their factory that might be really cool content for you. I would just encourage you to be creative, not just with your creative, but with the deal as well and the partnership. There's a lot of different things you can play with that are not strictly, just the fee number. So yeah, if there's something you want to try to figure out how to make it work, see what else you can play with.
Yep. Also, maybe offer, hey, this one video, I can't do it as a one-off for this price, but I can actually give you 3 videos and YouTube for X price. Again, to your point, Lauren, get creative, right? If you're looking to hit a certain number, add more deliverables. Say, maybe I can extend this into a 3-month partnership instead of a one-off. Maybe the brand knows that they have a big campaign coming up for January and they want to secure you for both. They're like, actually, that's great. That's even better for me because instead of booking you for $5,000, now I can book you for $7,000 for now and January or now and whatever date. Or you can do stories or you can host an event. Again, just be creative and think about all the different ways you can work with the brand outside of what's written on paper today.
Yeah. Also, one other good kind of thing you can sometimes do is if, maybe they can't meet your rate, but maybe they'd be willing to switch the content to UGC instead of being posted on your channel. Sometimes if you back to the earlier question about asking questions, if you ask questions and it sounds like what they're really interested in is a piece to repost on their channel, maybe that's an easy solve, So yeah, I would say, always just be on the lookout for things that you can, play around with.
Yep. Absolutely. I want to get into one of our final topics today, and that is that there are things going on behind the scenes that we can't tell you about. And trust me, there are so many times where I wish that I could. I wish I could tell you what's really going on behind the scenes, but you just won't know. And sometimes it's because it wouldn't be professional for us to tell you. Sometimes we just can't due to confidentiality reasons. Sometimes we don't have an answer, but there is something going on. So just know that when things happen, when things change, if we can't tell you, there's usually a reason why. And there's stuff that you will never know about behind the scenes. And maybe the person who was the VP who loved influencer marketing was championing for all this budget just left the company, and now the influencer budget is suddenly in flux, and that's why we can't move forward with another campaign. Maybe we just got numbers back for the end of the year and we realized, hey, we thought we were going to do hair care. Now our hair care line is doing okay, but our skincare line really needs some love before the end of the year because these numbers aren't looking great. We have to change all of our budget from the hair care to the skincare or from the lip gloss to the mascara. There's just things that we can't always tell you about. We'll try to be transparent where we can, but just know that you don't always have the full picture. And I would also say, because of that, don't ever assume anything is personal and don't ever assume that you 100% know. And I think that's tough too, right? If a brand says, I can't work with you right now, you're like, well, why? And there might be a reason why that we can't talk about. Or we might be able to tell you, hey, we actually think you'd be a great match for this, but we're not activating this campaign right now. So just know that we're fighting for you. And if we could tell you everything, we would. And sometimes we just can't.
Yeah, I mean, every day I feel like I fight for talent, for their ideas and for their video to get approved as is, but also know that, we're on emails with 10 people who are stakeholders. And, sometimes we can't push every single decision through, but know that we're on your side. We fight for you 100%. And, at the end of the day, we just want to get through our day and, have a successful campaign. So yeah, just know that we're on your side. We're on your side.
Yep, 100% we are. And I think, one last question that I've received that I want to address before we close out with some final thoughts is how can a creator stand out? And my initial reaction to this is if you're pitching a brand, already be using the brand. If somebody sends me an email and they said, hey, here's my pitch for this brand, instead of saying, oh, here's what I would do, here's what I would do. Show me what you've done. Show me you actually love this brand. If you are the biggest fan, I'm just picking this up off my desk. If you are the biggest fan of this lip gloss ever, show me how you've already made 5 videos about this lip gloss in the last year. Maybe 5 is too much for you, but show me how you've already done a full product review and how you incorporated it into your spring look and how you brought it with you on vacation. Show me that you already have passion for the project, that you know how to talk about the brand, right? Because I could see in your other videos, do you actually know what you're talking about? Do you actually like this brand? Do you actually like this product? That's a lot easier for me to look at than if you send me like a hypothetical situation. And I would also say, going back to this is a business deal and we're looking for results, show me data. Tell me, hey, the last campaign I worked on, I was actually able to drive this many sales, if you know that number. On average, my videos are getting this many views. I think your target market might be women between the ages of 25 and 35. Here's a screenshot of my demo showing that I'm hitting women in the US between ages 35 or 25 and 35. Like, come with the data and make a compelling case for yourself. Show me what you've already done. Show me why you're a good fit, and then tell me what you would want to do. That is a lot easier for me to think about opportunities for you than sending me just a general, here's my general media kit, I'd love to work with you. Like, I can't do anything with that. Even if I think you're amazing and I want to, now the work is on me to try to figure out, well, where can I put this person? I don't know, are they for an awareness campaign? Are they here? Does it make sense for us to work with them? Show me why it already makes sense for us to work with you. Come with the data.
Yeah, I would say personalize.
Yeah.
Generic templates that feel like you're sending to 10 other brands, that just really doesn't get you anywhere. But if you come with, hey, like you said, like here's content I've already produced because I'm a genuine fan. Here's an idea that I think would be really great,
Yep.
or options for ideas, like that's even better. And also just being like, I'm willing to brainstorm for you, like, and come if let me know like what type of campaigns you're running or what, products you're trying to highlight this season. Like, I'm happy to brainstorm some ideas around that, that can really help you stand out. I would also say, like, here's something that I feel like doesn't maybe get asked enough, but asking brands, and this works probably better with brands that maybe you already have kind of an established relationship with, but reaching out to them and seeing if like they, want to sponsor your holiday party by providing product to you. Like, I think that like this is something that is usually not a huge ad. It's usually like doable for brand. Like, so it's like can sometimes be harder to find money out of nowhere, but finding product out of nowhere, like that's like providing product is like a very feasible thing in for a lot of brands. So, that's something to also kind of think about. Like if that could like, help you throw a better party. And, it always helps to also like throw in like, oh, this is going to be attended by 10 of my influencer friends who are probably going to be opening bags and like showcasing your products, or, oh, I can do this for you. I can like, I'll do some like added value posts in exchange for you hooking me up with like this product. So I think those kind of pitches can be, really appealing and, great and easy to actually like kind of follow through on, especially like, sorry.
It's a great way to get your foot. It's a great way to get your foot in the door, though, of building that relationship, showing, hey, I actually want to share this with friends and family, and then capture content at the event if someone sends you product. And then you can come back and say, hey, I created all this great content with the product you sent me. My friends loved it. Here's all the content from the party. We were tagging you. We were talking about how great the product was. And now you have a foot in the door to have a relationship with the brand for a paid partnership. So I think that's great advice too. Lauren, you are filled with so much wisdom and so much creativity. I think that's one of your strong suits. As we wrap up today's episode, what are your final parting thoughts for things that you wish that you could tell creators?
I would really just say, like, remember that this is a relationship business at the end of the day. You have a relationship with your audience, but also like the relationship you have with brands and the people kind of like the middlemen like me, like the kind of people who sit between the brand and talent. Like, we all want to work with good people. We want to work with people who make our lives easier. So, as much as possible, be kind, be friendly, be transparent, have good communication, and, we'll want to keep working with you.
Yep. Could not agree more. I think on my end, closing thoughts is that we're people, right? There are people on the other side of this brand deal. There are people like me and Lauren who are always fighting for you, fighting for creators. Be kind, be professional, be human, right? Be a good human, but be human and know that we're human too. Be transparent And, it's two things, right? It's relationship and it's still great content. And great content, as we talked about today, can look like a variety of things. It can look like making content after you were gifted something, right? It can look like making a really great piece of sponsored content. It can look like sending a good idea. Content, is still key. So making great content, maintaining those relationships, that's how you can keep winning in this space. And that's how, brands will want to keep working with you. And I think you can build a really long, sustainable career with a ton of brand opportunities. So really appreciate your thoughts. Lauren, if our listeners want to reach out to you or connect with you after this call, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email, Instagram. I think we're going to be linking them in the show notes, correct?
Yes, correct. So we'll put your LinkedIn in there. Great. We'll tell folks to reach you on LinkedIn. You can reach me on LinkedIn as well. Would love to hear from creators, managers, and other brands alike what you thought of today's episode. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Lauren. Hope we can chat more about all things creator soon.
If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at iamwim.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we can ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week.